Hi and welcome everyone to our first episode of our Guangzhou Sourcing Monthly. Today with me are Kars in Netherlands and Georg in China with me. Hi Kars, how are you doing?
Hi Clemens and George, good morning. Nice to be here again. My name is Kars Nicolai. I'm a friend of the business and also responsible for Benelux customers. Nice to be here for our first podcast. I'll give the word to George.
Hello guys, also very pleased to be here. Hi to Clemens and to Kars. I am here in Shenzhen in China and giving you my point of view from my city here.
Okay, so let's directly jump in. Let me pass the ball to Kars. Kars, so we heard that there's like a dramatic increase in shipping prices. We in China, we've seen it now a few times when shipping our containers out. That actually is a very difficult situation. Everything got more expensive, more to this later. But is there anything you saw in Europe already, like that these shipping prices are actually impacting the retail prices or prices in general in Europe?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I think not even just in shipping, but overall in the economy or in daily life, I see either inflation or just increased prices. For example, I have a nice example. A few weeks back, I tried to buy a mountain bike here in Utrecht, the Netherlands. And obviously I went to a bike store in order to try one. But when I got there, everything was sold out. And I asked the owner of the shop whether it's possible to buy a mountain bike. He said it's hard, but he would be getting delivered 2 mountain bikes in a few weeks from then, of which I was able to buy one. Basically without seeing it, and at a higher price than the catalog price. For me, for my American friends, I heard the same also in buying new cars. New cars are actually also selling above MSRP, which is illegal in Europe, but in the USA it's daily business.
Do you think
is this relating directly to shipping prices?
That's a question, right?
Yeah, I mean, for cars, I don't necessarily think so, because they are also built in the USA. But there's a chip shortage, there's high demand. But for mountain bikes, I definitely think so, because Shinamo parts are obviously shipped from Japan, and lots of parts are from China. So it must definitely be a factor.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen on our side in China definitely that prices for containers have doubled, tripled, maybe even quadrupled compared to 2 years ago. I've heard myself that large retailers in Europe and the US and also manufacturers seem to really negotiate now deals with the ocean carriers to lock in their ocean freight rates, so that they don't run or don't have this risk that rates are even further increasing. But yeah, a good example from our side is we did pay now for a 40 high cube container to Miami $22,000, which is quite a lot, right? I mean, that's like definitely more than double than what it was before the COVID pandemic.
Sounds like a record.
Yeah, absolutely. So George, what's your impression? Is it because of COVID? Is it because of the pandemic? Or are there other reasons to it?
Let me address the inflation first. I think this is a direct result of the increase in prices, the shipping, and also the delay. So the market is reacting by, there is a shortage, there is a real shortage of goods that drives the prices up, and on top, the higher shipping rates are driving the price even further. And yeah, it is COVID. It is for sure COVID. We were used to deal with some seasonal price fluctuations. Like if you're preparing for Christmas season, you could always expect a little higher shipping costs than usual. But now it is just going through the roof. So as COVID started in 2020, early 2020, we were still recovering from the seasonal increase of 2019, of the Christmas season. And that was usually the time when the prices would go down naturally and gradually. And they did not. There were immediately some disturbances. And this is actually a long story that is going until now. So we are still in the phase of clearing through the disturbances and the interruptions in this sea shipping are continuing, and we are still suffering from the results of any kind of situation resulting from COVID. So this is the big reason.
Interesting. If I can ask a question for the viewers and maybe listeners, Clemens or George, how much did we pay for a shipping container to Miami, say last year or a year and a half ago, approximately, if you can recall?
I'm not sure about Miami, but about Germany, Shenzhen, mainland China. It used to be, you could usually plan with something for, let's say we take a small container, the 20 GP container. You could usually estimate something about 2,000 to 3,000 USD in various seasons, but it was the price you could plan with. And it made it much easier than jumping between 22,000 and 15,000 and 5,000. But now it is just insane to plan anything.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
No, absolutely, I agree. It's just something we've seen. There were, before COVID, there was quite stable shipping prices for a full container load for an FCL shipment that were basically like somewhere in a price range. For sure, it also fluctuated a bit depending on like oil prices, but you could always like know a bit about what a container would cost like. And since COVID started, it got very difficult. So just to point out, in the beginning of COVID, we had a situation in Europe, but also in the US, that a lot of ports basically closed down or could only process a certain percentage of like what they have done before. So that led up to basically carriers like big container ships just lining up basically at the port, right? That happened before, but then it was maybe like 1 or 2 days. That was normal. But when COVID started, that extended like dramatically. So ships were waiting sometimes for about 2 weeks just to basically go into the port and unload their containers. And in my opinion, this basically started the whole price increase, because you had like huge delays then with these big container ships that were basically like then suddenly 2 or 3 weeks delayed going back to Asia. And they were like, I think COVID related a lot of more reasons to it why prices increased.
How big of a part do you think that the Everglades ship that was stuck in the Panama Canal, how big of a part do you think this incident or this accident plays in the whole problem?
George, I'm seeing you're shaking your head.
I think after witnessing all kinds of COVID-related delays, this was just a drop in the bucket. So it was suddenly big news because it sells. News sell. Like, this is a very unusual situation, but it actually did not mean much. It meant a 2-week delay, traffic delay inside the Suez Canal, before the Suez Canal on both sides, when the Evergiven was the name of the ship, when it got stuck. But it did not really do anything to the big picture, especially not concerning the prices and the delays in USA, because this is a different sea route, and they were still kind of enormously overburdened with the costs. So
I agree. To all containers, all ships that went to the US, that didn't have any impact, right? That was just like not any concern there. But I do believe that it actually like further increased the prices for shipments to Europe, because it was again like a situation where you had like basically ships lining up which are being delayed, and then again coming late with a certain delay back to Asia to load more containers. So I think like it did do something to prices to Europe, but Georg is probably right. It's not the main reason why prices are high at the moment. Maybe another topic that is very interesting is the shortage of containers. So what I have specifically what we in China now have experienced very dramatically is that there's really a shortage of containers. So we do bookings for shipments, and the bookings theoretically go through, but as soon as like the containers are being released and the forwarders like having the info to basically like allocate the shipments or the loads for the containers to the containers, they're not having enough containers. So they are always calling it equipment, right? And there's not enough equipment. So there's not enough containers at the moment in China to be loaded. One obvious fact is that there's a trade imbalance, right, between Asia and Europe. That you have like a lot of products going from Asia to Europe, but or from Asia to the US, but the other way around, there isn't as much as we see it in the trade deficits of Europe and the US. But another fact that plays into there with containers being inland of Europe or the US, and then there was like less truckers, less workers, and there was actually like also a lot of issues to bring these containers back to the port. So I think that's again a shortage that forwarders, but especially the carriers, had to deal with, not being able to actually put all these empty containers, if they're empty, right, to put them back on the carriers on the big ship, on the big container ships, and bring them back to Asia to load again. So that's, I guess, another shortage.
Yeah, I do recognize this, Clemens. Also heard or read stories about container ships leaving empty again from either USA or Europe, because it's just more cost effective instead of picking up just a few containers to bring back east. Just go back directly empty. Yeah, I do think you are cutting edge there with one of the key factors that's driving up the prices. And for me, what I see around here with friends and family is also that just because people are so spend so much time at home, and they order a lot of stuff online, obviously through platforms like eBay, Amazon, or AliExpress, that there must also be an increased goods flow from China, just for individual small packages. I've not seen any numbers yet, because I think it's just we are in it right now. But yeah, what do you think? It's just a combination of these factors we discussed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's keep it a little bit straightforward to keep like kind of a timeline. So we had a trade imbalance in the beginning anyway, right? That was much more Asian countries producing, manufacturing, and exporting to the West, and the West not really exporting as much back to Asia. I heard often that China exports 4 containers in contrast to the US exporting 1 back, right? I'm not sure if that's like a right number, maybe 3 to 1, but it also doesn't matter. But there is a certain trade balance. Then we had COVID, which basically increased the demand of online shoppers, maybe a lot of products on Amazon, a lot of products anyway coming from China, products that, you're just ordering online. And then we had COVID suddenly like also giving us a situation where you have a lot of shortages of containers, just a certain knock-off effect, I would say. And then we had again in China probably situations where we had COVID related scenarios where ports couldn't handle as much, right, Georg?
Yeah, exactly. There was not so long ago, I think 2 months ago, there was an incident where the new Delta variant of COVID came through the Shenzhen Yantian port into the Shenzhen area, and it was remarkable how strictly the government reacted. They immediately closed down the port for 2 weeks. They had to disinfect all the facilities and clean everything up, and they were tracing and tracking everybody who was in the vicinity or who could be a possible carrier of COVID. But that had the result that no shipping could be done for at least 3 weeks, and that hiked up the price locally enormously. So suddenly you had containers that need to go out, maybe even some livestock on board, something that has to be carried within a certain time, of food products that had to be delivered within a certain time frame, and they had to be distributed to other ports. And that was a huge disturbance, and it hiked up the price once again.
Yeah, Yantian in Shenzhen is actually like a very important port, right? So imagining that they suddenly like closed down more than half of their volume to process containers was basically a drastic cut in for the whole shipping industry and for the whole export business in China. So that was, I guess, like a big reason why suddenly again we had a price increase. We had a shortage for containers for products going out. So yeah, that's a very, very interesting situation or example.
But however, this situation is only like an aftermath situation. So it suddenly occurs and that it is handled quickly. It has its results because of the strain that is already overburdening the shipping, the logistics. But it was even worse when the COVID situation started. So as when the things got going here, we immediately had something that is the reason for the situation at the moment, for the price inflation and for the shipping container imbalance worldwide. We had a one-sided lockdown only in China before the rest of the world even started reacting. So there was a sudden stop in manufacturing, in shipping from the Chinese side. The ships that were on the way, en route to Chinese ports, were stopped on the way to the ports. They, for a few weeks, they just stood in the ports on the way and did not move into the Chinese mainland. And that was like the first delay that occurred. Then we resumed production and reopened everything. And then the rest of the world went into the phase of gradual lockdown, open up, lockdown, open up, lockdown, open up, which occurred in Europe, which occurred in the US, and that only increased this imbalance. Suddenly, you got the shipping containers that were inside the mainland, and maybe the receiving part has closed down, and nobody was operating them. So the container could not be loaded, could not be unloaded, and could not be shipped back to China. And that continues until now. So there are still gradual and temporary lockdowns in some parts of the world, while China is now constantly operating for at least 1 year without big interruptions.
So basically, we agreed on that there was, at the first place anyway, a certain imbalance of trade between Western countries and Asia in general. We had like a lot more goods going from Asia to China, to the West, and we had also an increasing demand from products from Asia, especially while the lockdown was implemented in the EU and the US. And then we had especially COVID come into it, which basically led to a lot of like delays and shortages. For example, the shutdown of ports, ships lining up and waiting to be unloaded or to be being loaded in China, right? And that was just a certain knock-on effect. And then we had like also the situation that we have fewer truckers, especially due to COVID, that could actually bring the containers back to the ports. So there's an actual shortage of containers at the moment, which makes it also difficult for the carriers to actually provide space, booking space, and provide the containers to load goods, right? So these are all kind of like knock-on effects we saw from COVID, right? So let's maybe look at one more question. Let's speak about how can people solve this situation? What can people, traders, companies do to actually maybe make the best out of the situation? I've read that Home Depot in the US actually contracted their own container ship, so that they are not having higher booking rates or higher costs for shipments. They just got their own container ship, loading everything on their own ship and bringing it back to the US. George, what's your opinion? Is there anything else people can do, especially maybe smaller traders, Amazon sellers, in the US or Europe? What can they do to maybe come around this, paying higher shipping rates?
Well, the easiest way for the final customer, for those who consume the product, would be to buy locally. But nobody does. Everybody wants to save money and buy the cheap stuff. And as long as this is the case, it is up to the bigger players to invest in their own shipping capabilities. Increase the number of planes, increase the number of ships, build up new routes to connect Europe and Asia, build up new routes to connect Asia and the US markets. Because the demand will not suddenly start to decrease.
Yeah, very interesting point of view, and it's probably true. What I've seen with our Amazon sellers is they do hold a certain stock in Europe, and what they're doing now is basically going more towards like, okay, they don't want to decrease their order quantities because then maybe prices will increase because the manufacturers will ask more for smaller quantities. So what they do is buy basically still the same quantities, but instead keeping it in stock in Europe or the US, they get storage in China and just ship very much demand oriented.
I do recognize the strategy you just explained. However, I think we had Prime Day a few weeks back, and a huge percentage of FBA sellers on Amazon was out of stock on their most popular products. This may obviously be a consequence of the strategy. My opinion would be that, just like you see in many categories or sectors already, that prices, the end consumer prices, will be impacted by this problem. Because I mean, in order for businesses or small businesses to sustain their bottom line, they will need to increase their own price as well. I think it's really that simple. Does it affect attractiveness of sourcing in China? I don't think so, because or actually, as we all know, just the supply chain, just the whole infrastructure, the setup, it's essential. So my conclusion would be prices just going up here.
Yes, absolutely agree, Kars. That's also my point of view. George, what are you saying about this?
Yeah, I also agree with what Kars mentioned. Long term, the COVID is not over yet. The demand will not decrease suddenly. We are on a steady increase over the next years. And that means that people have to get along with the increased prices. The businesses have to calculate with this higher costs in shipping and to plan for the delay. And that will not be over as soon as we all wished it would be. So yeah, we need to deal with it.
So in the end, as we're now at the end, we want to gather some ideas of what we can speak about next time. If you guys have some other ideas, feel free to put it into the comments, write us emails, or contact us somehow else. Tell us what you want to hear about. We can definitely take up on those ideas as well. But for now, we will put some ideas out there, so you can also let us know what you think about those ideas. So Kars, what do you think we should speak the next time about?
Yeah, a good question, Clemens. I'm going to pick one of the low-hanging fruits, so to say. How do you guarantee and control the quality of your products sourced and produced in China? As this is obviously one of the things we work on every day. So I would like to fully make a podcast out of this. Any other suggestion, George?
I was thinking about the history of the development of the PPE market, all the masks and all the medical devices that were produced last year. It is actually a quite interesting history that happened here. And
that's definitely an interesting one, I think, for lots of viewers and listeners. Because, I mean, I guess everyone has used some kind of PPE product over the last year and a half.
So my idea for the next podcast would be a little bit of a broad idea. The idea of like going from a design stage to a product development. So how to really go from an idea to a final product. That would be my idea. And I would say let's close this podcast. Thank you for you guys being here. Maybe just one more comment to our viewers. We do have sometimes some troubles with the internet, so sometimes the connection is a bit down. So we just need to cut and prepare a little bit this video. So don't wonder if there's some gaps you can see. But yeah, feel free to follow us on social media, and please join us the next time when we're speaking about the next topic. And we're looking forward. Georg and Kars, thank you for joining today. Have a good day.
My pleasure.
Thanks for having us, Clemens. Like and subscribe.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Cheers.